Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Truth on the Tracks. I'm Brandon Turbeville. For those of you who are just coming into the show, who are new to the show, you can catch Truth on the Tracks here every Monday night and Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ucy.tv. You can access the show's personal page here at ucy.tv/TT for Truth on the Tracks, and there's links to my recent articles, there's YouTube videos of the archive broadcasts, and there's also a chat room if you're into that sort of thing. You can talk with other listeners as you listen to the show. For those of you who are, again, new to the show and don't know who I am, I'm a writer, staff writer for Activist Post over at activistpost.com, and if you want to keep track of my articles as they come out, you can just go to that website, watch the home page. You can click on the Contributors tab, and you can find my name with some of my more recent articles listed. You can also click on my name, and that'll bring you to my archive page of my more recent articles, that is. I'm also an author, and if you want to support me, it's a great way to do it by buying the books, which you can find at falseflagpublications.blogspot.com. That's got a list of all the books, pictures of the books, and the descriptions of the books there. And lastly, if you want to keep track of my work specifically, you can go to brandonturbeville.blogspot.com, which is my backup blog where I repost all of the articles that I've had published by Activist Post, all of the archived versions of Truth on the Tracks, and all of the interviews that I've done that I'm able to save and repost up on that site. I also want to draw your attention to a new site that we've just got started here. It's the Russian backup blog. It's the Russian version of my backup blog. It's brandonturbevillerussia.blogspot.com, and yes, it is in Russian. We're doing our best to reach out to as many people across the globe as we can. I realize that there are a relatively high number of Russian readers, so I thought it would be a good idea to reach out and post the material in the native Russian language for those readers and anybody that they want to share the information with. So it may be broken Russian, but we're using Google Translate and not using the state of the art. We don't actually have Russian translators here. So you can, if it's not right, then you can thank the people at Google for that and many other things. Now, tonight I have a guest with me. His name is Chris Young. He's a friend of mine, and he is author of several blogs. And I'm going to give you the name of the satellite blog, essentially, where you can go to find all of his other blogs. So if I went through each and every one of them, we'd be here for a while. So if you go to Christopher Young's bloglist.blogspot.com, it's a long title, but it's Christopher Young's bloglist.blogspot.com, and you can find the collections of the blogs that he has authored, and they're pretty diverse. There are got a list here of esoteric analyses of media and culture, whether it's breakdowns of various popular movies that have come out, breakdowns of false flags, lone gunman theories, breakdown of cultural symbols, which we're going to talk a little bit about tonight, the music industry analysis, an analysis of some of the agenda behind depopulation agendas, and Agenda 21. And he also has some religious poetry up there as well that you can click on and find those blogs individually. So with that, Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brandon. Good to be here.
Yeah, so I thought we'd talk about some of the symbolism that you mentioned in your blogs here, and particularly the initiation mysteries.blogspot.com, where you break down some of the symbols in popular culture. And I'll have some more specific questions, I guess, but if you want to just introduce people to what you were talking about in that blog and give them some examples, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think a good place to start would be, there are a few different very prevalent examples of symbols that you see a lot in popular culture. For instance, Saturn is very popular. And with Saturn, I guess a general way of getting into that would be to say you see the rings on transportation and media and all the driving forces in politics and society. It's probably the biggest one, Saturn, and you see that represented by the X and the rings and also cubes. That would be the first one.
Okay. So what is the what's the obsession with Saturn? I mean, what would you think the connection is with Saturn with some of these elite, I guess you would say, Luciferians, elite people, the occult followers? What's the importance of Saturn?
Saturn is an ancient symbol, and it represents the golden age, which for the elite is that the future New World Order is the golden age to come. So they put Saturn on all these prevalent cultural symbols to say these are the things that are leading us in that direction.
Yeah, and so you said the X is a symbol of Saturn. So you've got here on the blog list, you've got Exxon with the two X's that reach into each other, right?
Like a double cross.
Yeah, a double cross, which is interesting, double entendre there, because you have a double crossed, you're being double crossed by these individuals. Right?
Yep. Exactly. And the X is negation. So, it's sort of like crossing out the past and for the, in lieu of the future society.
Right, and you also have the BP symbol here.
Yes.
Listed on the blog. So what's the deal with that one?
Wherever you see the sun, you see that everywhere. I mean, you see it on food, and you see it especially on energy. That there's a good chance you could say that is Sirius. That's how I interpret it. It's Sirius. It's one of the symbols of the mystery religions going back to ancient Egypt. And Sirius was the apotheosis, basically, of the Egyptian mystery religions. And what it means, basically, Sirius is considered the power behind the power. Like the sun is the power of our universe, but behind that is a second sun, which is Sirius. Which is kind of like saying we're looking past the god of monotheism, and he represents the power behind that, which is Lucifer. See that? I have a couple on here, like I have the star on Hardee's and SunTrust and several different gas stations, Sirius Radio, the Dog Star, and so forth. It's very prevalent. Yeah,
Sirius is called the Dog Star by a lot of different people, right? So
right, and it goes back to ancient Rome because they called the days of late summer the dog days, and they associated that with Sirius for some reason. It's not really well explained, but that's why.
Well, interestingly enough, if I'm not mistaken, Sirius was associated with Lucifer, right? With the origins of Lucifer.
I'm not sure about that, Brennan. I know it's associated with Isis, who's intimately associated with Horus. So, and Horus, of course, you see on the eye of Horus everywhere, right? So it seems like all these roads lead back, to Lucifer for the elite, oddly enough.
Yeah, so the sun symbol itself, you also have here SunTrust. Would you say that was a Sirius symbol as well?
That's my interpretation. I mean, it's so prevalent. You see it all over the place. And you see it in places that, what does the sun have to do with banking? What does the star have to do with Hardee's? Or Walmart? Or anything, one of these places. So it's my interpretation, but I think it's valid.
Well, it's certainly the star is 5-pointed, so it's the pentagram, right? That's,
exactly.
It's the pentagram, the pentagon. You have that symbol. Sometimes it's inverted, like I believe the Order of the Eastern Star is inverted.
Yeah, which means Satanism.
Right, because it actually creates the image of Baphomet, right? The facial image of Baphomet.
And the 5 pointed star is a mockery of the 5 wounds of Christ, also, for the occult. Do you know about that?
No, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, there are 5 wounds. There's one in each hand and one on each foot, and one in the side on the cross. So those are the 5 major wounds. So when you have 5 major points on the star, in each of those, it's kind of like a little lance, in a sense,
Okay, yeah, I see what you're talking about here now. I'm just scrolling down your blog a little bit, and you have the image of the cube, which you say is also a Saturn image, right?
Yeah, that's a Saturn symbol.
Now we also have that in Mecca, right?
That's right. Yes, you do. And I'm sure that they wouldn't think that that's a Saturn symbol, but you can argue that it is, certainly. It's an ancient symbol. Yeah,
now, you have here that on Saturn, on the northern hemisphere of Saturn, there is a natural hexagram formation.
Yeah, right.
So this would explain the star. Well, actually, it wouldn't explain the 5-pointed star, but it would explain some other symbols that are used for Saturn. Right?
The thing is that let's see, it's a natural hexagram formation, but a cube is a 2-dimensional representation of a hexagram. So when you see the 2-dimensional cube, it represents the hexagram in 2 dimensions.
Well, then there's the connection with the cube here. You also have the Nike symbol.
Right.
Yeah, the Nike symbol. That doesn't look, at first glance, it's not something that you would quite associate with the Saturn symbol.
No, but they overlap it onto Saturn, so they do it for you. They make the association for you.
Right, and the only association that we have with the Nike symbol is the silly commercials where the athlete takes off running and leaves the trail behind him. And what you've got here on the blog is the overlapping of the symbol on Saturn, where it's actually a ring, one side of the ring of a ring of Saturn.
Right, and the way I look at it, sports, there's nothing wrong with sports, but the whole concept of victory is kind of a distraction, a cultural distraction, so that you can't see what's going on behind the scenes politically. So I figured Nike figures into that, and so that's what that's all about, I guess.
Yeah, here, if I can read a second from what you've got here on the blog. It said Nike equals victory for Team Saturn. Better yet, Team New Golden Age. Why are these people so obsessed with star signs? Because their love is the prince of the power of the air. So that's. Tell us a little bit about that. If you can comment on what I just read.
Yeah. Okay. It's interesting. Why? The question it really is. Why are these companies so obsessed with star signs? We live on the Earth. Think about that. The culture is imbued. It's imbued with star signs, and it's because the people who run the culture are obsessed with the power of the air. I think that's my thesis. I think it's valid. Otherwise, why wouldn't they use earthly symbols? Why wouldn't they use a track, Nike instead of the Saturn, which is super prevalent in imagery? Yeah,
and one of the important things to remember is that these symbols weren't just invented by 10th graders who won an art contest. These things, people get paid lots of money to put these symbols together. So there are no accident. People take advertising classes and get degrees in these sorts of things to see what works, and people at the top don't don't just sit down and doodle and come up with a logo for a multi-million-dollar product. Some of the other symbols that you have here, some of the logos, you have Landstar, where you have not only the 5-pointed star, but you have the rings of Saturn surrounding the five-pointed star. You have AAA with the rings of Saturn surrounding the AAA symbol. And of course, then you've got the A, which itself is a symbol of Isis, the all-seeing eye of Isis, all-seeing eye of Ra, the pyramid. And then you have three of those, the trinity of those pyramids there.
That's right. So, and the question again is, why are we using star signs for ground transportation? I mean, what does Saturn and Sirius have to do with Landstar?
Right, and of course you got Internet Explorer here, which is the same thing, the little yellow symbol.
Information technology, yeah.
And then of course the most obvious one is actually Saturn. Saturn, most obvious. You've got the Xbox symbol. Tell me about the Xbox symbol again.
So you have an X and you have a cube, which are two Saturn symbols. The X for negation and the cube, which is the two-dimensional hexagram. And they're together. And, once again, you have information technology, which is governed by Saturn. Above it, you have Internet Explorer with the Saturn rings. And now you have more computer technology, and all these things are governed by this sign, because I think they're leading in a certain direction. I don't think it's really about entertainment as much as conditioning, because of the images that you get through the Xbox and the stuff that comes over the internet. It's sort of leading people in a certain direction. It's something I call, well, it's not my phrase, but it's revelation of the method, which Michael Hoffman introduced. Have you heard of that, Brendan?
No, I haven't.
The revelation of the method basically covers the fact that he thinks that the elite are revealing certain things about their plan. Number one, in order to indoctrinate people, so that when it comes out in the open, they'll be accustomed to the symbols. And number two, it's about mental conditioning also.
So in a sense, it's like predictive programming in television and media and so forth.
Exactly.
Yeah, and when you mention Xbox and some of the things that the images that you get from that, of course, it's all video games. These things were essentially invented by the Pentagon. We're reaping the benefits now of an entire generation of people who were raised on these stupid video games with the drones, because the drone controller, what they use in order to fly the drones is the PlayStation, the PlayStation controller. That's what they use to fly the drone. So all these years that people have been eating Cheetos and playing video games until the wee hours of the morning has actually been training them quite well for a career in the military and the Department of Homeland Security complex here domestically. Soon enough, anyway. I think, well, not soon enough. They're already using them. So all those times that parents told their kids that they were never going to make anything of their lives, well, take that, parents. Take that. So we got Chrysler up here too, the symbol for Chrysler. What is the deal with the Chrysler symbol?
Oh yeah, that's the winged Egyptian sun disk. I mean, if people will take a look at the blog, they're basically the same thing. And I put how American, but it's perfectly Egyptian.
Yeah, and then you compare it with. I think that's the next symbol. It is an American, actually it looks something like the Air Force symbol almost. Of course, they use very similar symbols in the Air Force.
But yeah, it's interesting because you have, once again, all these Egyptian mystery religion symbols that pop up in, Americana, and we're supposed to think there's nothing to it, Yeah.
Yeah, there's we have all of these symbols, like you said, they come from Egypt, they come from Babylon, actually, where a lot of them come from, and it's for some reason it's associated with the United States as if it was something that were organically created for the benefit, of adorning our dollar bills for our aesthetic pleasure. But what's the symbol underneath the? I don't know if you're scrolling the blog right now.
I am. Yeah.
Yeah, the symbol underneath. Is that the Dodge Ram symbol? The one that's directly underneath the sun disk?
Yep, that's it. And that's Aries again. You have the horns there. It's a god of war. Interesting.
That's nice. We should make that our national symbol.
Right.
Yeah, and then you also show that it has connection with Baphomet, who has the head of a goat, and then you have the ram's head, which is the same family here for Dodge. So it looks like you've got Kanye West. That's a fine, talented individual, Kanye West. What have you got here on him? Oh, it's like
so Kanye has a Baphomet head over his nether regions, and he's up on stage and so forth. So that's another media guy he wears a lot of Baphomet, a lot of occult imagery. Him and Jay-Z, they all Rockaware has all kinds of Illuminati symbolism. I have Baphomet, the Eye of Horus, Do What Thou Wilt, which is Aleister Crowley. That's how he likes to say his name. So yeah, but he's just a rapper, He doesn't have any occult ideology.
No, and Jesus walks, right?
Right.
And then,
Brandon, their specialty is blasphemy. So what they'll do is they'll mimic Christianity, and then they'll come out with a bunch of occult stuff and mix the two together in order to confuse people.
And that's what he did. I mean, that song came out, and then it seems the satanic imagery, the Illuminati imagery, started popping out of nowhere. And I'm looking at the image. Yeah, it's a Baphomet codpiece. That's definitely what it is. And Jay-Z, he's been pretty open about it. As you said, with his clothing line, he's definitely cashing in on it now, and all the useful idiots who go out and purchase the stuff, because apparently once you buy a piece of clothing that was made in China by slaves, and you buy it at 10 times the cost, that makes you a member of the Illuminati. You're illuminated now that you've been stupid enough to pay 10 times the price for a ridiculous piece of clothing. And let's see, we have a strange image here from Jay-Z's music video, right? This is definitely a Baphomet image.
Yeah, on to the next one.
Yeah.
And he has in that same, there's Baphomet. In the same video, there's an image of a rosary with 2 bullets next to it, which, that's pretty overt anti-Catholic imagery.
Yeah, and he's, of course, the obvious pyramid symbol that he made famous. And Beyonce flashed at, was it the Super Bowl, I believe. Beyonce flashed the Super Bowl there, the pyramid symbol at the Super Bowl. Not quite as Illuminati as I thought it would be, actually, but it was enough. I mean, it was no Madonna, it was no Olympics, but I suppose it did what it was intended to do.
But there were some interesting. Say, Brandon, can I interject?
Yeah, go ahead.
There were a couple things from the performance. One was that if you looked at it from the air, you could see it looked like a giant chalice. I don't know if you saw that picture, but you could check that out. It looked like a giant ritual chalice, the stage. That's number one. Number two is that the 2 faces that were on the left and right of the stage represent Gemini, the twin. So, and that may or may not represent mind control. And then there was the fact that they multiplied her arms in the video, in the performance, and she looked just like Shiva, the destroyer goddess. So,
well,
I thought that was fascinating.
The two faces, I couldn't tell. I think were they actually twins, or was one male and one female?
I thought they were twins. I can go back and take a look at that, but that was my impression.
Okay, well, I didn't get a real good look at it, but I also wondered if they were male versus female, if it was not the representation of the dichotomy that you see in high Freemasonry and the Kabbalah.
That's interesting, and that could be androgyny also.
Right,
because they love androgyny.
Yeah, the blending of the male and female, so that there is neither one or the other. Alan Watt has written 3 books on that, cuttingthroughthematrix.com. He wrote The Androgynous Hermaphroditic Agenda, which I would encourage people to go out and buy, because that book, all 3 of those books really are illuminating, to steal a term from the enemy. But you also have something here, Subaru, the Subaru symbol. Before we go on, I want to get on talk about the androgyny issue, but the Subaru symbol. What do you have?
Oh yeah, Sirius. Right, more air power stuff. I mean, it's all air power, and the question is, what are we doing using star signs to talk about ground transportation?
Yeah, well, as above, so below.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, so you have some comments on androgyny here. Tell us a little bit about what you're writing about when it comes to androgyny. You've got Beyonce, I think, is that Lady Gaga? She's the queen of it, or he's the king of it, whatever.
So the idea is to push human beings beyond the natural order. So you have men that look like women and women that look like men, and you have, women who are like with their bright colored hair and all that looking, I don't know what they look like, but it's in order to push people beyond the boundaries. I would say, in my language, the boundaries that God gave to men. That's normal and natural, because they're trying to instill Luciferianism, which is a philosophy that pushes people beyond the bounds of their created state.
Right, and then there's, let's see, you've got some here down a little bit further. And for any of the listeners who don't know what we're talking about, sometimes I forget that
the brink.
might not be able to see.
We are on the brink, but of what? No one knows. It depends on the reference frame that you're looking at it from. On the brink with Jeff Weverson.
I said that wrong when I mentioned it the first time. It's initiation.
We have been nuked. Did you know that? Check out Nuke Radio on UCY.tv. Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Radjic and Jules. Stay safe, everyone.
And we're talking about the music industry here. Beyonce's famous police state video, or a police state performance.
UCY.tv. The future is in your hands.
Yeah, we can't forget that one, the black-clad uniform.
I'm Brandon Turbeville, staff writer for ActivistPost.com.
Yeah, she's making the police state look sexy.
Tracks every Monday night at 9 p.m. and Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on UCY.tv.
Which is almost like the OK symbol over
I'm Madison Rupert, the host of End the Lie Radio here on UCY.tv every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific and 10 p.m. Eastern. Tune in every Monday here on UCY.tv.
You're listening to
and you're also illuminating the eye.
Real news.
Exactly. Eye for us imagery.
This is Josh from Anti-Tyranny News Radio here on UCY.tv. You can catch me 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on Fridays. And catch all the great hosts here on UCY.tv.
The eye symbols painted
That's
on her
before
face.
the first cup with Jules.
Monday through Friday, 9
That's
to 10
right.
a.m. Eastern
Standard
Time at ucy.tv.
Yeah, of course, that's just a coincidence. I mean, she's just doing that to be cool. And she's getting total control of her own career, obviously.
Oh, obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
I've said this on when I've been interviewed myself. When people ask me, is Lady Gaga in the Illuminati or is Jay-Z in the Illuminati? I mean, in reference to Lady Gaga, I mean, you could really go out to the street and find any girl that wanted to make some money and had very marginal talent, and you could make the same thing. If you were talented enough as an industry promoter, as a manager, you could do the same things with anybody. It's just how willing they are to go down that rabbit hole with you. But you've got somebody mentioned here that was down the rabbit hole and did write about it, obviously from a perspective that he supported these changes. But Manly P. Hall.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What have you got to say about him here?
Manly P. Hall is probably the greatest philosopher of Freemasonry. Manly came right out and said that, the great work, the god of Freemasonry is Lucifer, and the ideal of Freemasonry is to bring in Lucifer as the god of the world.
Yeah, that's the thing about Freemasonry is that when you start into Freemasonry, you're told that that in order to appeal to the Christians that want to join it, they'll tell the Christian people, this is based on the Bible, this is based on Christianity, and it might sound that way for the first few degrees, but as you move up, you're right, the ultimate light bearer is Lucifer. I mean, Lucifer bears the light. You want to become illuminated, right? You can reach the light by the light that Lucifer bears. I guess we can move on just a little bit to one of your other blogs here. You have cabininthewoodsreview.blogspot.com. And I thought maybe I'd just turn this one over to you and just kind of cover what you were covering in the blog so we could get an idea of what this specific blog has to deal with.
Right, so this kind of builds on the other ones. So now that we have the cultural symbols knocked out, we can move on to what the intelligence agencies are doing through media. Like if you look at Lady Gaga, the Masonic influence and so forth, and you see how the occult forces are working in society, and then you might move on to films. And we can see here in Cabin how they basically show how the intelligence communities are working through film. So you have these kids, and these kids in the cabin in the woods, they're drawn to this cabin, and beneath the cabin is an intelligence agency working out a ritual sacrifice. My interpretation is that the cabin is basically the world, and you have all the different types of archetypes that are gathered in the cabin: the virgin, athlete, scholar, fool, harlot, etc. And they are encouraged by the various occult forces to trespass. And they are encouraged to break the rules that are set up for them in society so that they can be punished for the gods, basically. So this sets up basically the whole system of Luciferianism and how it works to bring in the New Age. I mean, then you have the rituals set up to bring in the god of the New Age, basically. That's what it's all about, and that's what the movie reveals at the end.
Yeah, no, I have to admit, I've never seen this movie. I don't watch television at all, and occasionally I'll watch a movie, but I haven't gotten to this one, and to be honest with you, I don't even know when it was released.
A couple years ago.
couple years ago. Okay, but I'm taking a look at it now, and it looks like maybe I should maybe pick it up and see what's going on.
It's very revealing, Brennan.
Yeah, and of course there are movies. I guess you talk about the revelation of the method. Just to throw this at you, what do you think about movies like The Matrix, which seem to have a clear, a positive message to it in revealing the controllers for what they are and revealing humanity for the shape that it's in. What would you have to say about a movie like that? Like, not something that is at least overt and predictive programming, which it doesn't seem that The Matrix is, or at least the first one anyway. What do you think about those?
I definitely think it follows under revelation of the method. I mean, we're given the opportunity to take a look at the world and make changes, and if we don't do it, then it's what's called tacit consent, which means that if you see the problem and you don't fix it, then you're culpable. And that's the mindset of the elite, because they're Gnostic Luciferians, which means that they have to balance their evil and their good. But they don't really balance it. But, they give you an opportunity by showing you a little sliver of the truth, right? And even in the Matrix, it's not that clear. I mean, they don't really offer you a solution. They just present this big problem. And they say, you're enslaved. It's impossible. So this is the situation. And then they leave it at that.
Yeah, the whole idea, as you say, of once you're aware of it, then and you do nothing about it, and you say nothing about it, then that's your silence is your consent. So I actually had a similar discussion about that issue, similar discussion with Vinny Eastwood last week on this radio show, where we were talking about individuals who do wake up or do come into contact with this information and decide to do nothing, and that's to some of us that might be very perplexing. I mean, how could you come into contact with this information and do nothing? But people can do it. They manage to do it all the time. Which reminds me of something I want to say here at the end of the show. We've got a few more minutes left. If we could move on to one more of your blogs here, Chris. You have ourgovernmentisevil.blogspot.com.
Yeah.
Now, you have different instances of assassinations or false flag attacks. Like we have World Trade Center 7, obviously. That's the image here, 9/11. You have the Oklahoma City bombing, and you have the assassination of JFK. And these is always a lone gunman, right? This is it's the fear of every elected official, is that one person with one gun will somehow defeat the most advanced security systems in the world and assassinate them or pull off terrorist attacks. So you go into a lot of different things here, such as mind control. And tell us a little bit about this blog, if you can.
Yeah, I basically started with the false flags. I'm trying to show a little bit of the history of how the government has terrorized its citizens in order to make the case that it's really not that out there to think that they would be programming individuals to do assassinations to create terror situations like Sandy Hook. It's not out there at all, really, and there is ample evidence from people who have come forward, like Kathy O'Brien, who've been victims of mind control at the highest levels, who reveals what's happened to them. And you have these strange lone gunmen who've been manipulated, will come out of psychiatric situations, like the guy at Fort Hood who was a psychiatrist, and the Aurora shooter who was in the psychiatry neuroscience department. So it's very plausible their minds were tinkered with. If you look at them, they look like they've been messed with. all this adds up to a very plausible case that this is government terror.
Yeah, and then Sirhan, and then the Aurora shooter, his name escapes me, James Holmes. They don't remember what they allegedly did, right? Because this is the hallmark of programs like MK Ultra, is that the memories are erased. And in fact, Sirhan, his lawyers are even bringing up the case before the courts. I mean, this is documented to the point where his defense lawyers are able to build a case of defense around a mind control program. So that'll be interesting as it goes into the courts. Hopefully, he won't meet with an unfortunate accident like Chris Dorner.
Yeah.
So.
And it's also funny, Brandon, because some of the imagery associated with the attacks. For instance, Aurora, who was the goddess of the dawn, which is illumination. So you have that symbol associated with it. And also Sandy Hook, Cassandra, the goddess of prophecy. So, it's like it's like they're saying, this is the future. It's prophetic.
Yeah, and then when you mention Aurora, the dawn of the new age too. You also have that, and the dawning of the age of Aquarius, which we're coming into now. And then Sandy Hook, you have Hurricane Sandy, which is interesting as well, right?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, they happened, weeks within each other.
Yeah, and you mentioned that in the blog there. So.
Right.
But before we go back to this, I want to shift gears abruptly here to something that we talked about earlier. You were telling me some time ago about the Stingray Towers, and this was something that I didn't know about until you told me about them, and I had a similar experience to when I was told about chemtrails, which was I looked around and happened to see one of the towers, and I thought, where was I at when these things were put up? They're not small.
Right.
What do you know about the Stingray Towers, if you want to?
Yeah, they're very mysterious. Very mysterious. They're going up everywhere. And they have very odd attachments that kind of look like HAARP, which is HAARP, which charges the ionosphere with chemicals in order to produce different weather effects. But they all have strange attachments, and they're going up everywhere. And they're all different. So if they were cell phone towers, like some people think they're cell phone towers, but if they were, then they'd all be the same. But they're all different. So they're very mysterious. And I have the feeling they may be there for mind control purposes, for the chip. That's my reading.
For mind control purposes or tracking purposes?
Yeah, and for the chip, which is coming.
Yeah, I want anybody who doesn't know what these things are, and I kind of feel like I was a little slow on the draw on this one, so a lot of the listeners might know what they are, but go Google Stingray Tower under Google image search, and you can see what these things look like. And if it's like it is around here, then trust me, you'll see one within a couple of miles. When Chris says that they're going up everywhere, they are. I was literally, I'd say I'm literally 150 yards away from one of these things every day, and didn't notice when it was put up. So, I have no idea when they put it up. I don't know how they put it up. I just know that it's there at this point. And you can stand at the bottom of one of these Stingray Towers and look in any direction, and you can see the next one. So there's that many of them. So, who says the government is not efficient? They were pretty efficient with these. And it's going to be interesting to see what role they play. Now, I looked up some of the things about Stingray Towers. They're obviously for interception. People don't notice them going up because they look like cell phone towers. But you'd think that you'd actually see it going up at some point. There's a lot of wires attached to these things, a lot of little satellites and antennas. So I'm going to encourage people to go check those out. Well, Chris, you've actually got some books out as well, right?
I do. Yeah, I have one called The Arcade, and a good portion of that is dedicated to cultural symbols and decoding them into poetry, actually. And that's the one that's out right now. And that one coming out called Songs of Solomon, which is the Wisdom of Solomon turned into poetry also.
Now, where can people find your books?
You can go on Amazon and get them, or Barnes & Noble. But it would be under Christopher Young.
Yeah, that's important to point out. I had a time finding your books, as we remember. It's Christopher Young. I'm calling you Chris here on the air, but it's Christopher Young is what you search on Amazon. And from what I've seen, especially The Arcade, it's very good stuff that I encourage people to go check out. And again, to go check out the blogs that he's got up here, it's Christopher Young's bloglist.blogspot.com, and we're going to try to put up a link to that under the YouTube video when that comes out of this show. Now, in the remaining time that I have, I want to encourage the listeners to take action. But we have just a couple more minutes before I do that. If you have any closing comments, closing words for the audience here, Chris.
Yeah. Let's see. The word incrementalism, I think, is important because this stuff has been creeping up, especially since the 50s to now, and it's gradually increasing symbols to the point where it's becoming very prevalent. And I feel like soon the truth of the matter is going to break the surface. It's going to come out, and everything's going to be revealed in the open, what all this stuff actually means. That's what I call the Luciferian reveal. And it's funny because if you look at like the music industry, the way it used to be versus the way it is today, and how they bring in an artist and they make them all innocent. We'll take Kanye West again. You know, he came out and he was rapping about social consciousness in the beginning. Now that everyone is indoctrinated and they love Kanye West, he's rapping about occult things. And they brought in the Beatles, and they were singing, please, please me, and then they were singing about LSD. Now some people will contest, they're rapping and they're singing about Lucy, but I think, at the very least, they got into metaphysical things, their total image was changed. And you look at the Beatles were the harbinger for bringing in neo-paganism and everything that came after that. So the trend is from innocence to the occult, and that's how people get dragged in to these things.
Yeah, and once you break that first line of defense, that first line which I've talked about on here before is the family. Once you finally break through and separate the family from one another, and it gets to the point where government, where media, or corporations can talk directly down to you as an individual, and it doesn't have to go through that community, cultural, familial relationship, then that's not something that's easily retained. Right? This is something that cultures and the family bonds are something that have come up organically in a state, and these things have lasted for thousands of years. But it's akin to a farmer, family lineage of farmers who can go outside and look at the field and look up into the sky and tell if it's going to be able to rain or not, what kind of crops go here in this field, and what kind won't grow. This is knowledge that's passed down from generation to generation. But once you take the first generation off the farm and send them to the city and then bring them back, that knowledge is gone. They can't look at the ground and say, well, this will grow here and this won't grow here. It's gone. And once they've separated the family in that sense, the defenses are down. and these images that you're talking about, they seep in. They're partly what did separate the family and what did break up the family, and that's how we've got to the point we've gotten to. And it took a long time, but now that breach has started to take, and once it does take, it just accelerates. So, well, Chris, I want to thank you for coming on. I want to take these next couple of minutes to encourage the audience to take some action here. I have a lot of people who maybe contact me and want me to do things, and I'm sure a lot of people have this experience as well. But I wanted to encourage the people who listen into these shows, the people who read articles, to actually to do something. We're reaching a point in time where we no longer need keyboard commandos. Now, reaching out to people on Facebook, that's great. Reaching out to people online in any way you can, all of it's great. But at some point, we're going to have to do more than sit around at our computer. And we're going to have to actually get outside of our comfort zone and talk to people one-on-one. I don't care if it's burning DVDs and handing them out, making flyers, handing them out, writing your own articles, doing your own radio show. Anything you can do. It's time to do it, because I sit around and I've been looking at the events that are unfolding now, and we have a very small window, and these things are really accelerating. The current events are getting to a point now where if we don't do something right now, we might not be able to do anything at all. So I want to challenge the audience here during this week to do one thing that doesn't involve the internet, to do one thing to reach out to somebody and spread some information to them, whatever it is, whatever your area of expertise may be, whatever way you're more comfortable doing, just as long as it doesn't involve online communication. It's time to get back to actual interpersonal communications here between individuals, between humans, and not just computers. So I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm pretty sure you're smart people. You can figure it out. But do something, because it's not going to be done by just a few people here and there. And anyway, that's my plea for some more activism or just reaching out to one another. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to put up a link to Chris's blog list under the YouTube video, but again, it's Christopher Young's bloglist.blogspot.com, and on that list you'll find the blogs that we've been talking about, which were cabininthewoodsreview.blogspot.com, Our Government Is Evil.blogspot.com, initiationintomysteries.blogspot.com, and there are several more on here that I'd encourage you to check out. Again, I'm Brandon Turbeville, activistpost.com, brandonturbeville.blogspot.com. Remember to tell anybody that you know about the Russian blog, the new backup Russian blog. If you think that'll help anybody out at that part of the world, it's just brandonturbeville.russia.blogspot.com. And if anybody feels so inclined to just take my material, translate it using Google Translate, if that's all you got, and start a website in other languages, then go for it. I have no problem with it. Give my information out for free. And, of course, Truth on the Tracks. Here you can catch us Monday night and Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ucy.tv. I want to thank everybody for being with us tonight. Chris, thanks for coming on, and we'll see you guys next week.